You want to get rich? Listen to this lady. You're going to hear in the next half an hour or so ways to get rich by really doing common sense things. That's building community, teaching, coaching, et cetera, et cetera. I'm very excited for Megan Huber to be here because she's going to add value to the people who are listening and watching this. She's going to really, truly, potentially make you rich. What's up, Megan?
Amazing. I love that intro. So thank you. Well, let's see where this conversation goes and see if we can make some people rich today.
I really believe that. By the way, my name is Kenneth French with VastSolutionsGroup.com. We're watching and listening, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. And this truly is a secret. It's a common sense secret. A lot of people should be doing exactly what you provide. And that's providing coaching. There's a number of things you're going to provide here actually in this next half an hour. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. And I love that. Common sense is one of my most two words. Like those two words together, it's amazing because the majority of the world is not operating on common sense. And if we would just operate on common sense, we would all be a lot more prosperous, successful, probably a lot more happy. So I love having a common sense conversation. So a little bit about me. I have been in some form of education and coaching for my entire adulthood. So that's about 20 years. So I started my first career as a high school teacher when I was 22. I am probably at the time of this recording or when you listen to it, I don't know, maybe I'll be 43 by the time you listen to this, but it's been about 20 years. I started out as a high school teacher in the business education department. And I also did a lot of other things in the classroom. And I share this part of my story because where I really learned to lead, where I learned how to build community, where I learned how to facilitate classroom management, where I learned that not all people are created the same. We all have different personalities. We're in different emotional states at different times. Where I learned how to really meet people where they're at, it was teaching high school kids. And not only was I a teacher, I was also the women's tennis coach. I was a swim coach for a period of time. I was coordinating a number of county-wide and statewide initiatives. And when you're in a school building and you are the coordinator of something, and even in your classroom, I kind of always looked at it like that was my little mini business inside of a bigger business. Because if you look at a school, and I was on track to be a principal, I probably was going to then become a superintendent. And the way I always looked at a school building, you have your different stakeholders. You have your parents, your students, your teachers, and then your faculty, your other staff. It's like running a business. You also have to run a budget. So even though I was just a teacher at that time in my career, I ran a classroom like it was my business and my students were my clients. And I think oftentimes our past experience and skills really lends itself to the business that we have today. So I've pulled a lot of those skills into what I do today. Now, fast forward, I've been in the coaching and online education space since 2011. So I became a certified professional coach. I went through a certification. And in the early days, I was coaching a lot of brick and mortar businesses, small local businesses, because a lot of them were solopreneurs running a brick and mortar, or maybe they had one or two employees, but they were an entrepreneur. They were a visionary. So things like details and operations and systems and strategies and structure, it kind of eluded them, and they wanted to get to the next level. They wanted to make more money, and they were totally burned out because it was their business. They were working like 14 to 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. And so I matched really, really well with the way my brain functions and what I'm really good at. It just meshed really well with somebody who's a visionary that is like truly entrepreneurial. And you put those two things together and it works really well. I built my whole first business by speaking in person and building local communities and meetups in person. That's how I became known in my local area. Fast forward, I left my business. I worked full-time for a very large-scale coaching company, and I was essentially the right hand of the business owner, but less from a whole company operations perspective. It was more from the perspective of running her coaching programs. So at any given time, we would have like 600 to 700 students at a time, clients at a time. And we had a certification program. I wrote all the curriculum and I ran the programs from an operational perspective and was really the mastermind behind how are our programs designed so that they're attractive to the client, people want to buy it. And then we're actually delivering on the results that we promised when we made the sale. And people love it enough that they want to stay here. They want to take the action to do the work. They want to bring their friends, and then they want to stay in our ecosystem for years. Because what we don't want to happen is clients to just come and go, come and go, come and go. Because at that point, you're just moving a bunch of money around. Like, are you really making a lot of money? Or are we just like moving money around? Because if nobody's staying, you're not profiting. Fast forward from that, I left that company at the end of 2016. I rebooted my own coaching business. By that time, I'm known in a little crevice of the coaching industry because of my past history. And so it was pretty easy for me to grow a business very fast in a pretty substantially sized business in 2017. How did I do it? Well, I spent 7 years becoming well known for a particular skill set and niche. And guess what I did again? I built an online community. So now I didn't do it in person. I did it online because now online is super popular. I built a Facebook group. Doesn't matter where you build your community, build it anywhere. But I became the authority in that community. I got to know the people. I nurtured the relationships in that community. And then I would sell my stuff to the people who wanted what I was offering and who were ready to be a buyer. And Kenner, that's really how I've built everything. It's build the community first and then keep building the community at the free level because they become your leads. But then there's also building of the community with your clients on the inside. So today, my expertise has never changed. I help people, either coaches or experts, service providers, or people who've been really successful in whatever business they've been successful in. I help them create, sell, and deliver world-class group coaching programs or masterminds. And that's what I do today.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But what I would say, I think how you can add value to the people who are out there. I'm going to remind you, I know you know this, but I'm going to remind you, are the people who are watching and listening to this, they're all over the country. Most of them are very well-heeled entrepreneurs, real estate investors. 90% are probably real estate investors. They might sell a widget, but also they're mainly investors in real estate. And a lot of them also are, I should say, this is worth noting, real estate agents and or brokers, etc. So there's a lot of agents out there that are going to be watching and listening. So, and a lot of them, I think, are starting to move to the coaching world, I believe, number one. Number two, I think where you add value really, truly is you understand the value of customer service, if it's online coaching or selling widgets or whatever, because the reason I think customer service is so important is because if you can keep a customer, make a customer happy, get referrals from that customer, it's so much cheaper than going out and doing a new client acquisition process, because that's costly. You never know if they're going to trust you, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's where you add the most value. First, that's second, right? So third, I think that community is the cool thing now. I think communities are really cool because right now with all the AI, people are thinking there's a lot of fake things out there. But if you can have a community, your business is going to grow because people, as the owner of the community, let's say, manager of the community, they're going to love you if they like your personality, et cetera, and they're going to stay longer. And it's going to be cheaper to get new products, new things sold to that community or that community member because, well, they're in that community. They already know you, like you, and trust you, hopefully.
Exactly. So yeah, let me give an example that is a non-coaching business example of how a service provider or a business owner can use a community or use a community platform to add value that's almost like a secondary piece of value to what they're really selling. So I have a really great friend who I met in college. We were sorority sisters. We lived together after college. We get together, at least once a year, talk on the phone, that kind of thing. So we've had over a 20-year friendship. And she's had a couple of different careers, but she's largely always been in some sort of sales career. So this particular friend of mine is a sales rep for a dental product company. So her ideal client is the dentist or the orthodontist who's the practice owner. So she goes around in her region to all the different dental practices, and they're already using dental products, right? Like their whole office is already fully, stocked with all the products and all the equipment and all the things. And so she usually has to get them to convert to her company and to her as the sales rep. So I think she's been with this particular company now for 15 years. And it took her about 3 years before she really started growing and seeing growth and making some headway. And in less than 10 years, out of thousands. I think it was like out of 2,500 sales reps for this dental equipment and products company, she was in the top 12 of all sales reps.
Okay.
And at this point, she's like top 5. She might even be top 3. So she's amazing at what she does. And I always would kind of pick her brain a little bit because she was an amazing salesperson, but she was an even better relationship builder. And so I would always ask her, like, how do you get these dentists? Like, you're schlepping you're bringing muffins in, you're bringing donuts in, you're trying to get a conversation. You got to get past the gatekeeper. I was like, you're literally getting these people who were already pretty happy and satisfied to convert to your company and to you. And sometimes it might take you 3 years, but how are you doing it? And so she had her ways of doing that, but I'll share with you one of the things that she did. She made herself stand out, and she became very unique in the industry because guess what she did? She started a Facebook group for dentists and for people looking for jobs in a dental practice, like dental hygienists or front desk managers or whatever other positions you have in a dental office. And what she recognized is like, how can I, and it's not like she's not a recruiter. She's not the one like connecting the people together, she's not picking up the phone and making the connection, but she created the environment and she created the atmosphere. She created the community that's a value add so that she was seen as a connector and someone who cared and someone who could add value. So she essentially created a platform for these people that didn't exist. So she built a community where she's created this opportunity for dentists and people looking for a job with a dentist to connect, find synergies, and possibly like the dentist wins because they find someone who's a great fit. And then the employee wins because now they have a job with a dentist that really works. So again, I think we can really think outside the box about community. So, my friend didn't need to build a community for dentists just to be able to commingle with other dentists. Like that wouldn't really be as valuable. So she found out like, what are they struggling with? What are they struggling with? I could be seen as the person who's bringing this value, and it's free. She's not charging for the Facebook group and for the community. It's a free service, and it's really worked for her. I mean, it helped her get to like, top 10, top 5 in her company. So think of other ways that you could create community that serves your customers or your clients so that you're seen. Like, how could you be adding value to them through the form of community? Because people are really looking for community.
More so now than ever. Totally. Yeah. For us, let's use us as a case example, actually, because I think maybe you can help, and some of the people watching and listening could be helped by this process. So I'm going to throw some questions out here. We just started a community, as I think called the Vast Vault, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Just like our Vast Voice is telling secrets to entrepreneurs, but this time it's a vault. All our information is considered to be in a vault, and if they want to be a part of it, they are given a key to the vault. We just started. We thought there was going to be 100 people who were going to want to sign up. At first, it was free, then it was $29 a month, and now it's $199 a month. So it's blown. I mean, we're getting calls from people in the community who want our services and which we never thought of to this extent. We thought it was going to be a community. Everyone's going to hang out, help one another. But it's been basically a new business process for us, which has been pretty cool. So let's talk about that. So, but we have zero engagement. No, first of all, what platform do you think makes sense? Meaning platform, whatever, Facebook, your own, whatever. What platform do you think makes sense as far as putting together a community, first of all?
Paid or free, or does it matter?
I'm going to ask you. Let's leave this open up.
Yeah. So I don't think it really matters. I think what matters the most is where are your ideal clients and customers already spending their time, and where are they already hanging out? So, I'll say like transparently, in 2017, the reason why I started a Facebook group, and I want to share why did I start a Facebook group? I didn't just flippantly start a Facebook group.
Okay.
I thought through, okay, who is my ideal client? So you need to know your niche very well. You need to know your ideal client very well. So I figured that out. 2, I identified where are they already spending time?
Got it.
Where are they already showing up? Where do they already spend time? Because I'm going to position myself in front of them so that they see me often. Then I asked myself, where are they making buying decisions? So at that time, which I still have that same Facebook group and I still sell inside that same Facebook group today. It's like however many, 8 years later almost.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that my ideal customer was inside of Facebook groups, and I knew they were making buying decisions inside of Facebook groups with other coaches and service providers in the coaching industry. So I thought, well, I'm going to go create a Facebook group because my ideal client is kind of already trained to make buying decisions inside of a Facebook group. So that's one way of looking at it, and that's one kind of filter to make decisions through. The other one is I've never built a community outside of Facebook. I've personally now I have clients that have built communities on Mighty Networks, on Circle, on there's another one called like Honey Book or Honey something.
Honey Book, yeah.
Like all over the place. And School, the only drawback I've ever heard from any of them is that sometimes it can be challenging to get their client to move to another new app. And so you just have to know your audience well enough to know, like, are they going to complain because now it's one more app that they have to download and have on their phone, and it's one more app they have to learn, and it's one more place they have to go. So again, like for me personally, my people are already on Facebook. Why do I want to take you off of Facebook? Like, you're already using it. Is it the best? Who knows? I don't really care as long as my people I know they're there. And if my clients are going to complain because now they have to do one more app, because a lot of people have app fatigue.
Yeah.
It's too many apps. So I don't think it's right or wrong, good or bad, what platform any of us decide to use. I think it's like, what are your people going to migrate to? And then what are they actually going to utilize? Is it user friendly? I like simplicity, and I like things that are visually user friendly. And if it's visually not user friendly, or if it's confusing, or if it feels like kind of chaotic on the inside to your client, like there's just too many moving parts and pieces, or it's too hard to understand, I would exit that like really quickly. I would look at it through those two filters.
I understand. Yeah, we have our own, just to let you know, we have our own technology. It's called Einstein. Everything is built on Einstein. We use Google for our email, but everything's on our own Einstein platform, which is AI. We've been doing AI for years. But anyway, Okay. So then I get what you're saying. So build a app or build a community kind of where they already are, because they probably don't want to learn.
Well, and to your point, Kenner, like some people do want to own everything. So if you've built it on your own platform, you own that. Like, I fully understand. I don't own Facebook. And if Facebook wanted to shut my stuff down overnight, like they could do that.
That's why I'm freaked out. That's why we started our own stuff.
It's the same thing with any other platform. Any other platform, unless you own it and you built it yourself, they could just take it away right there. So I think part of it is like, that's another filter. Do you want to build it on your own platform so you own it? Do you have the capability to do that? Do you have the finances to do that? Do you have the team to do that? Some people do, some people don't. You do. Not everybody is going to be able to start that way, right? But you could start that way because of the resources you have access to, right? So, I think there's a lot of factors and variables that go into that. And look, here's the other thing I'll say. Nothing is set forever. So if you need to start where you're at. So if you can start and you can build your own platform and that works, like go for it all day long. But if you're like, that's not in the cards for me today, well, what is? Don't delay. Totally. Don't delay and procrastinate just because you can't build your own. Like, go ahead and get it going. And then look, 6 months from now, a year, 5 years from now, maybe you'll be on your own platform. So there's also an evolution and there's iterations to this as well. I've worked with companies before who literally were making tens of millions of dollars, thousands of clients and customers, and they were all on a particular community platform. And the company decided, like, we're going to switch. I have one client in particular. They were in a Facebook group, thousands of paying clients inside of their private community on Facebook, and they switched to Mighty Networks. The downside to that is you and your team then have to get everybody to migrate over. You've got to close one down. You've got to make sure everybody comes to this other one. You have to acclimate people, and it just takes time. It takes a few months usually to do that, but I'm saying that because it's possible. So whatever you choose, it's not forever.
That's exactly, and we're beta testing ours, and it's a headache. It's a lot of work, but I know it's going to be beneficial for the client because now we can do a bunch of stuff. But you're exactly right. I mean, you can scale up, do our own, let's say, and who knows, maybe move to a more robust one down the road, although I don't think we can. But yeah, so, okay, you've shown me that you can, once again, talking your feet, working your feet very quickly. So real quickly, before I forget, what is your perfect avatar for people out there? And then how does someone get a hold of you, by the way? And then we dive a little deeper.
Okay, we'll go deeper. Amazing. So my perfect avatar is someone who has an expertise. You have proof of concept with getting clients results. You have yourself gotten results in a particular category, and you are considered an expert in your field. So that means you could be a coach, you could be an expert, you could be a service provider, or you could be an entrepreneur who built a business in a particular category. And you now want to turn around and teach people how to do that. So it could be coaches and experts or service providers who are totally maxed out with either doing done-for-you services or coaching one-on-one. Or again, maybe you built a business to however much money a year. And an example might be like you built a fix and flip business, or you built a junk removal business, or you built a hair salon and you made millions of dollars doing that. And now you want to go teach other people to do the same thing. And you want to add a group coaching or group education stream of revenue to your arsenal. That is what I help people do.
Yeah, you're good at
Where to find me?
Yeah.
Honestly, the best place to find me is on Facebook.
Okay, then
I kind of live on Facebook. So the best place to find me is on Facebook, Megan J. Huber. I also have a Facebook group called Structured Freedom Inc. I have a podcast, right? So if you're listening to this, maybe you like podcasts. I have a podcast called Built to Last. And my podcast will direct you anywhere to any of my websites, social media, anything.
And real quickly, go over that one last time just so people understand how to spell your name, et cetera, and then I'm going to ask some more questions.
Okay,
Ahead.
So my podcast is probably the easiest. So my podcast is called Built to Last with
Is
Megan.
Is it the number Huber. 2 again, or is it T-O?
T-O, Built to Last, T-O.
Okay.
That will take you, that has all my links to any of my social media, my website. My name is spelled Megan, M-E-G-A-N, Huber, H-U-B-E-R. And I typically will use my middle initial, which is J for Jingle, or J for Johnson, because my maiden name is Johnson. So you can find me on Facebook at Megan J. Huber, and my Facebook group, which is kind of like my community hub on Facebook. That is called Structured Freedom Inc.
Got it. Thank you. And please, she knows her stuff. I've known her for a while. I know people who know her. She does know her stuff. So if you're interested in any of the things and services she provides, please do get a hold of her. She knows her stuff. I promise you. All right, let's dive a little bit deeper because you're an expert. You work with coaches, et cetera, et cetera. So let's use us as an example. Now that we're at 500, which for you, or 600, which for you is nothing, but let's just say it's, we're pretty happy with that, although we want it to grow. But we don't have very much engagement. People in our community, on our platform, who are talking, hanging out, which we thought we were going to get a lot of. Instead, more than anything, people are joining the community and then kicking the tires, then wanting to do business with us, which is great. But
that's great.
We think engagement's really important, and we don't have very much engagement. So give us some thoughts about increasing engagement, which hopefully will prove for a stickier community. What are some thoughts as far as engagement goes?
Yeah. And I want to make sure I'm really clear. Is this for the community? It's the paid community. So people are paying to be part of the community. Is that accurate?
Good question. So we have 90 in the free, and then I think it's 580 in the paid community. And they're paying anywhere from $29 a month all the way to $199 a month. And they get a ton of content, real content. And it really is real content. And, we're live on there at least once a month. It's for tax, finance, and artificial intelligence. And we have another service where we help people to get tax credits from the government for using artificial intelligence. And again, we have no engagement, and we're having a kind of an issue with getting engagement in that community.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. What type of engagement would you like to see? Would you like to see members actually making their own posts inside the group, or is your team making posts and you would like to see them comment on your team's posts? And that's or both and.
Look at Huber. Wow. All the above.
Okay.
We make posts in there at least once a day, and usually we'll throw in a video that's of value for that day. Let's say it's whatever, a tax issue or a public policy issue. It truly adds value, and there'll be a video along with it. No one's commenting, number one. Number two, no one's kind of bringing up their own comments within the community. either the free or the paid. And that's what I think will help the community and also us. Because again, we're looking for a stickier, fuel community. And I think they'll have a stickier community if they're, commenting, posting, hanging out there, more and more time, etc.
Okay. I mean, for you guys and for anybody listening to this who has a community, I think one thing to look at is what's your demographic? And do you have a group of people who are kind of the chatty type, or are they not? So, you know your audience better than I do. And sometimes there are certain demographics of people that just aren't super chatty Cathys on a social media platform. Maybe they're super busy. I mean, there could be lots of factors. And I'm going to give you some ideas in a second, but I will give you an example. I have a client that she's got a mastermind. It has about 50 to 60 people in it. It's a high ticket. It's like a $35,000 ticket price.
Holy, I like that.
Right? They have a call every single week. There's 2 live events, and they've got a training portal with training things in there. But they also have their community platform is a Facebook group, and it actually doesn't get a whole lot of engagement. So shockingly, because it's all women, and you'd think, especially when you have a lot of women, you would think that they would want to be engaging with each other. The other thing that we actually have in that mastermind that I've consulted them on is they have community activation teams. So their clients get assigned to a group of people, and then those group of people meet together once a month, and then they're given prompts on how to have that conversation. So I've actually been surprised that group isn't they're not heavy talkers and engagers inside of the Facebook group, which tells me either a lot of them they're not really your typical Facebook users. In fact, her demographic, they all found her pretty much on Instagram. So what that tells me is most of them are more like an Instagram social media user, not so much Facebook. So they're not going to the platform regularly already. And a lot of them don't really love technology that much. So that's like 2 whammies against the Facebook group. And I think the third is they just don't have a lot of time. I think they're really, really busy people. So when it comes to your own platform, I do think there are similar challenges to a social media platform when it comes to community. For yours, you built it. So they didn't already have it built into them as a daily habit, as something they're going to. They're all, look, I don't care who you are. We're all using social media. We all have the habit of picking this phone up and scrolling around on social media, whether it's throughout the day or when we're waiting for a red light to turn green, or we're sitting on the toilet, or we're trying to pass the time at night, or we're laying in bed at night trying to fall asleep and we scroll through our phone. So look, every single adult and kid is scrolling around on some social media platform. So I think for yours, Kenner, it's not a built-in habit that they're going to come to that site because they're not used to coming to it. So that's one thing. My second question for you, I think the answer is probably yes, but is it a downloadable app that they can have on their phone?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I think that's probably the number one thing. A few ideas for you. I would recommend mixing up the type of posts that you or your team are putting in there. So what type of posts are people going to engage with? Most people probably aren't going to engage with a video. So I don't find it alarming that you're not getting a lot of comments on a video.
Yeah.
I would certainly start incorporating more question posts.
We don't. Yeah, it's fun.
Like at least once a week.
We don't.
If your platform has the capability to do this, I would also do polls. So a poll where you're giving people
any capability. You're right.
Yeah, like you're giving them like 4 options and they choose one. So those are 2 really great ones. When people first join, are they prompted to make an introduction post? We
just came out with that recently. You're right.
Yeah,
that's
I would think too. So those would be helpful ones. And then think onboarding. So again, this is an app they've never used before. They have no habit of checking in with this app on a daily basis like they do all the others. I would even wonder, have they all even downloaded the app?
They're just starting that process. You're exactly right.
We don't know, but I would be thinking what can I do in the first 7 to 14 days where you're either giving them prompts or emails or some sort of notification that's going to ding them, that's prompting them to come and engage and do something inside that platform. Because for you, you guys have to train them to use your platform because it's not Facebook or Instagram or
Mhm.
TikTok or something that they're already using, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah. So let me stop you there. What's as you said? I'm sure you don't remember this in a presentation. What's the most important element? I think you said element of a client's lifetime with a company.
Onboarding.
Exactly. So you do remember. That's exactly right. And you're just bringing me up a big topic. Our onboarding, it's all automated, but it's not. I don't think we walk the client through it, or I should say the member or the key holder, to be exact. I don't think we walk the key holder through the onboarding process like we should, because it's a high bar to say, hey, this is a new app, it's cool technology, et cetera, et cetera. I think we need to improve upon that.
Yeah, I think that's your big opportunity right there.
Yeah.
I really do, Kenner. I really think it's because they're not used to, they don't have a habit of coming to that app every day. So how can you build that behavior in, and how can you start instilling that habit in them in the first 7 to 14 days? Probably
Yeah.
14. I mean,
You're
really
totally
30
right.
days, but I think, well, it's not like you're just selling an app. I mean, it's a membership. So your onboarding is on the shorter side because of the nature of what it is you're selling. But for you, I would think of onboarding as about a 14-day period of time for a membership.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Let's expect, because in this presentation you talked about onboarding, which is the way you did it was really cool, by the way. So let's talk about that, because I think that's very, very, very important. Because what they say, you never get a second time to do a first impression or whatever, and that's very true. So let's talk about onboarding for the listeners and viewers out there. Remembering a lot of them are real estate agents who potentially might be, or investors who might be wanting your services. So let's go into onboarding. Not only don't use me as an example, but tell us a little bit more about how you can add value about as far as onboarding goes.
How I can personally add value, or how your
Yeah,
listeners.
or onboarding. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever.
So, well, let's just have a conversation about onboarding. So, like you said, Kenner, onboarding it really is like the make or break to a business relationship. So, there's the whole client journey, there's the marketing, you're bringing strangers in at the marketing level. People don't know who you are. You go find them, you bring them in, and then you're nurturing them. And then they're realizing, I have this problem, I want to solve it. And now I'm going to research people. So then they buy from you. Well, now you make the sale. Now we're kind of switching gears in the client journey, and they're now a client. So the client is going to go through, yes, like stages, like physical stages, and go through your ecosystem, but they're also going through psychological stages. And the thing that we forget as business owners is sometimes I think like we think we did our job because we closed the sale, and then we have the product or the service, and like, here it is, now you have access to it. I think there's this big I think we forget that even though we're all working with adults aren't going to lead themselves through the process. Like, an adult isn't going to after the sale, they're not going to lead themselves through the rest of the phases of the client journey,
You're totally right.
operationally and psychologically. But in our minds, we think, well, everybody's an adult. You know what to do. You're responsible. You bought it. Like, you should show up and you should take action. But that's just not how we operate as people. Like, a very, very, very small percentage of the population is actually going to do what you want them to do without you telling them what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. It's like 1% of the population. People just aren't that motivated. So that's the first thing to remember. The second thing is people will make a decision in their minds on whether or not they're going to continue working with you, or if they're going to cancel if you have a subscription model or an app or something, or they're going to like not renew their contract or never do business with you again. They're making their minds up anywhere between day 0 and 90 from making the sale. So for you, like, your onboarding period, like, people for your subscription, like, they're really going to make up their minds between like day 0 and 90. So that's something for you to track. Like, how long are you keeping a client in your subscription model? And when do you start to see like a pretty drastic fall off? Like, there are a lot of people falling off after the first 90 days. If that's the case, then we know we can actually fix a lot of that and increase the percentage of people staying with you longer, even if it's only 5 or 10%, which is still really substantial. If all we did was fix your onboarding process, it could make a massive impact. So onboarding is where people are super duper excited when the sale is made, and then within 24 to 48 hours, they have buyer's remorse. And then a few days after that, they start thinking, I don't have time for this. They have all these misconceptions about how to get results. with whatever it is that they just purchased. They're going to start having all kinds of objections. And so it's like, it's almost like in the mind of the customer, they're like starting a whole new relationship with you because now they're paying you. Whereas before, they were just kind of like stalking you a little bit to see if they wanted to work with
They
you.
watch you 7 times. That's exactly right.
And then, but something flips in the mind of the buyer because now we're in a paid relationship. So now I'm going to be looking at you and your organization and what it is you're providing to me. And it's almost like you've got to rebuild the trust as a customer and as a service provider, like all over again. And people may not like what I'm about to say. And I'll explain myself. The more that you will hold the hand of your customer in the beginning, the less you'll have to hold their hand later on. And when
you're totally right, but it's expensive. I'm going off script, even though we don't have a script. It's expensive to handhold, though. That's my only issue.
Yeah.
Like, it's really expensive to handhold, and that's why we're using technology to do the handholding. And sometimes I feel like that's not enough for our customers.
Well, I do think there's a place for technology, though. I mean, look, you're right. So first thing is you're right. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't like about client experience and client success because it is expensive. And people sometimes aren't prepared to have that in their budget. And I'll be really honest, like when I've been behind the scenes of companies, the largest one I've worked with was $45 million a year. They had a team of 55 people. And a few months into our engagement, we heard from the client success director that the CEO wanted to cut the client success department by 80%. And this company has 4,000 clients paying $20,000 a year for a coaching product. You can't cut client success. You cut like who's taking care of your clients.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Let's also be really clear about there's a difference between customer service and client success. So customer service is more reactive, where like we're putting out fires, we're helping solve problems. Like you're coming to us when you have a problem. Client success is proactive, which is like, how am I onboarding? That's not customer service, that's client success. So it's like, how am I ushering people in so that they're getting acclimated with how we do business here? That's the biggest thing. It's like, how are we acclimating our clients to how we function here, how we do business here, how we show up here, how we get results here? And part of the acclimation process is getting them acclimated to building the habit of checking in with your platform, because before they purchase, they'd never touched your platform before because they didn't have to. So there's no habit built. So that would be like a form of acclimation for you. And then we've got to get them to adopt our whole way of doing business. We've got to get them to adopt our process, our system, how we do business here. If they don't adopt it, they're not going to stay. So it's that acclimation and that adoption phase that we kind of think the customer is just going to do it on their own. But no, the customer doesn't do it on their own.
They won't. Yeah.
And they'll just fall through the cracks. So yeah, onboarding is really, really important. And here's where onboarding ends. Onboarding really ends. It doesn't really end until your client has gotten the result that they wanted when they purchased. That doesn't have to be the ultimate end result. But again, in the first either 7, 14, or 30 days, depending on what you're selling, I mean, it could be, if you're helping, if you're Salesforce working with $1 billion company and you're trying to set up their whole entire software, like that's going to take probably 3 months to set up and get their whole team acclimated. So onboarding doesn't really end until like 3 months in or even longer. But depending on what you're selling, onboarding is going to last a certain period of time, but it doesn't really end until we've helped the client get some kind of result. So what is that result? What's that first result we need to help our client get? Our job is to get them there. And if we can get them to that first result, like you're really cooking with gas, meaning that your client the client is going to be so much more likely to stick if we can lead them to that place.
You're totally right. For us on our normal, for our tax and finance side, we don't consider them a client until they've given us 3 referrals. So they're not a client until they're really happy. By the 3rd referral, we know they're happy. But on the onboarding of the new subscription, the Vast Vault, we really should help them more so with the onboarding. And I'm correcting myself. When I said it's expensive, to do the onboarding in, let's say, the subscription model of, the Vast Vault, it's actually cheaper because if they are happy with the onboarding, they're going to stay around longer.
Yes.
And so really it's cheaper overall. Probably, I haven't done the math because it's all brand new or in beta, but it probably is cheaper rather than trying to keep them as a client down the road or when they leave because they weren't happy with onboarding. So it's probably smarter to spend the money up front. So I guess I'm correcting myself. It's probably not cheaper. It's probably not expensive to help with the onboarding, handhold, because you're right. You're totally right. We think they're going to do it on their own. We think they're going to do the subscription stuff on their own, but yeah, they're not going to. I hate to say this, they're kind of like in high school in a weird way because, they'll see another shiny dot and go over there,
Well, the thing about adults, I mean, when I was a high school teacher, I've got, my students are contained in my classroom. Like they can't go anywhere, right? I have well, you would hope you have their undivided attention, but at least they are all in your room. So you have a chance to have their undivided attention. But I think the thing that we have to, and look, I'll be really honest. Like I worked with high school kids and I taught an elective and I had a computer lab and I had office chairs, which meant they had wheels on them and they could spin around.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning I had, freshmen all the way through seniors, all in the same class. I could have the smartest kid in the school with the least smartest kid in the school, all in the same class. I had every learning disability imaginable in the class. And I had distractions. I had computers, and where I sat or stood, I saw the backs of the computers. So the kids could very easily be doing something without me knowing. And I had wheelie chairs and they could spin. So your kids who had ADHD, it was like a field day for them. So that was the hardest training ground. But let me tell you, the difference with adults, you're right. It's like we are all teenagers, but the difference with adults is we have so many more responsibilities than a child does. And we've got spouses, we have aging parents, we have health problems, we have money problems, we have world problems, politic problems, religious problems, and 42 million decisions to make. And if you're an entrepreneur, you have, I think there's a statistic out there that an entrepreneur makes more decisions than a president did in the early 1900s, mid-1900s. I mean, that's nuts per day. So the amount of stress and angst that an adult has on them and the number of people and things they're responsible for, it's extraordinary. And again, a very small percentage of the population is going to operate like a beast who can just handle anything and hustle and grind and get it. That's not normal. That's such a small percentage of people. And we have to understand, we're all working with a more average type of human being, average, slightly above average, depending on, and maybe you are talking to the masses if you're listening to this. And so we've got to remember who we're working with and meet people where they're at. But again, for somebody like you, it's a membership. It's not super duper high ticket. So when I say high touch, or holding their hand, that doesn't mean that you got to pick up the phone or have Zoom calls with people who are paying $97 a month or $129 a month, or you don't need to do that. You can still very heavily use technology. I think it's just thinking through more. What are the psychological phases people are going through, and what days in the process are they going through it? And then the big thing for you is, how do I get people to adopt actually using this platform and wanting to be part of the community here? And you activate that in the first 1 to 2 weeks. But you can do that through technology.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. Wow, this has been huge, man. This has been really, I'm sure the people out there are watching, listening, who are thinking, man, this lady's adding value just right off the bat for someone like me. I know we have some much bigger hitters than me out there. So how about this? Because, we're getting close, far past where I expected to go, which I really appreciate your time. I know the people out there are going to be happy. So I'm going to ask you to come back down the road. But so what's one thing, kind of in closing, what's one thing that you think that a business owner should know relative to your expertise? I mean, I'm going to leave the door wide open for you. What can you provide as knowledge to the people who are watching and listening that can add value to them, as to the extent we haven't gone over it yet?
I mean, you've got in this is kind of going a little off script of everything we've been talking about, but because everybody here is building businesses and building really awesome careers, how, I don't, no matter how big someone is or how far along anyone is on your entrepreneurial journey, like going back to the basics is really where you win. And I think that we make business and communities or adding businesses or scaling our businesses. And I'm saying this because I work behind the scenes of a lot of large scale companies,
You do.
regardless of the industry. So I see behind the scenes of team dynamics. I see like how many offers people have at all these different price points and all these different deliverables. And I see like the performance gaps. And there's just so much complication behind the scenes in companies. And especially when I look at like a coaching model, that to me, it is such a simple business model. So I think that we get so sidetracked by complexity, or we make ourselves believe that things are supposed to be a lot harder than they are, but they really don't need to be. Like the hardest thing is people. The hardest thing is confronting and having hard conversations with people because emotions get involved. And not all of us have personalities necessarily that are great with that or enjoy having those uncomfortable conversations with people. But if we just kind of strip back the complexity, business is simple, and it's about constantly getting back to the basics and getting back to simplicity, because we are complex people and we are going to naturally bring in the complexity. So I would just really encourage people to always evaluate and analyze, whether you do this at the end of every week or the end of every month, no matter what type of business that you're running, how can you simplify and where do you need to return back to the basics? I mean, even building community is basic. That's not hard. Like it's a basic thing. It's not complicated. Building a coaching business is not hard. It's just follow the basics and repeat the basics over and over and over again, and just scale by repeating what you figured out to work, right? It's like somebody said this to me one time. They were like, if you could have one McDonald's, it's really no different to have 100 McDonald's. They're all running in the exact same way. You're not doing anything different at the different McDonald's. You just have more people to make sure doing their job correctly. You just have more money flowing through your, it's just more of the same thing, but it's all the same thing, right? Like, why could you not have 100 if you could have one? Of course you could have 100 if you had one, right? It's all in your head that you couldn't. So I'll leave us with that.
You're totally right. I mean, going back to basics kind of makes the most sense, because we make it so much more complex than it is. If you, I guess, go back to the basics and show some diligence, and it'll probably work out for you, because again, that's the very opposite of the complexities in life and business, et cetera, et cetera. It's really the basics. If you do the basics, you'll end up winning if you really think about it. Your points are really good. Again, I'm going to ask you to come on down the road, because I love the way you add value, because you make economic sense doing it in such a way that it makes so much sense to me. It's crazy. Anyway, we're going to have you on down the road. That's what I'm going to tell you.
I love that. Well, I just try to, I always want to make things more simple than they are. Like, that's always my aim. Like, how can I make this more simple? How can I get back to the basics? Because even adults and even like the smartest people on the planet, nobody really desires complexity. Nobody wants that, right? So how can we take things and drill it down into its most simplistic way, especially when we're communicating it, right? Because when we're, even like with your team, like again, with team, we could have a whole other conversation about this.
Yeah.
I mean, we make it so difficult for our team to be successful. Like, no, how can we be direct, concise, clear, simple, basic? Like, that's what people want. I don't care if their IQ is 180. People still want you to talk to them in like simple terms and simple words. You don't have to make it harder than it is.
You're right. I mean, you're right. Going back to the team, that's a whole another level.
Yeah.
If you take care of your team, they'll take care of your clients, and you'll be probably making more money. So that's a whole nother issue.
We can do a whole episode on that.
Thousands of episodes. So yeah, I'm going to have you on down the road. But one last time, how does someone get a hold of you if they're interested?
Okay. Best places to go: my podcast, Built to Last with Megan Huber. On Facebook, I'm there all the time. It's Megan J. Huber. I have a Facebook group, which is my free community called Structured Freedom Inc. And if you want to go to my website, that's fine. It's meganjohnsonhuber.com, MEGANJOHNSONHUBER.com.
Dude, this has been good. Once again, this is Kenneth French with VastSolutionsGroup.com, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs in the Vast Vault. If you're a Vault member, or if you're watching, listen to this, you're luckily enough to be out there in the internet world, there'd be the Vast voice telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody.